I am here with the talented r.e.m. Phoenix. So great to have you.
So great to be here.
Talking about her amazing new project, River. Well, hello again.
Hi, Adam.
Good to see you, r.e.m.
You too.
Congrats on this. And this project, and every time I think about it and listen to the songs that I've heard, I get emotional, just the whole nature of the whole thing. And I just wanted to ask you about that. Just this, it's such a special project. There's not even the word to describe it because it's so personal. Just why do this now? Why was this the year to kind of put this out there in such a loving, special way?
That's a great question. I would say that it just kind of snowballed, you know? I started by just doing a single and wanting to pair that with Alakazadic songs.
Yeah.
Sort of my first band ever and my first solo release, and I did that. You may have heard of that. I did that with Michael Stipe. We released Time is the Killer.
So great, yeah.
And it was called Time Gone. And just by nature of being a creative, I just kept writing, you know. And next thing I knew, I was like, oh, I feel like I might be making an EP. Oh no, I think it might be a record now, and you know. And so, at a certain point during the process, it just came to me that like I'd spent this whole year kind of celebrating River, and it just made total sense to call the record River. And when I did that, it was like a flood of wonderful energy came to the project, and a flood of memories, and just you know when something feels right, and like that was why you were doing it. You know, I'm always trying to make things and be creative, so I was doing it anyway, but until I made that sort of intentional, when I called it River, it changed the project, and it also changed sort of the intention overall, you know, which was to talk more about the universality of loss that we all share.
Right, and to put your name on it as well in a different way as an artist, which you haven't done really to this point, right?
Yeah, I have always hidden a bit behind other names. Yes, so that was difficult in its own way, and you know, in a way, standing next to River, so to speak, on this project has given me the courage to do it.
Is there a certain responsibility that you feel in putting this stuff out there? It's like this is the time, and it's all happened organically, and there is a lightness to a lot of this as well, and there's a playfulness to a lot of this as well, but is there responsibility you feel now that this is finally coming out? Like this is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, the responsibility is I do feel it's a responsibility mostly in regard to talking about loss for you know, in a wider way for others, as I know it's such a delicate subject for all of us, and yet it's so close to what life is death, you know?
Yeah.
But we don't talk about it very much, and culturally it's taboo almost to bring it up, and when someone has a death, there's just this awkwardness, and someone has a death in the family, you know, people don't really know how to, and so I'm really sort of curious. I have no answers, but I'm curious about that, and I want to, you know, I'm hopeful that the music can help others who are experiencing that to feel some kind of connection and not feel so alone, which I think at times grief can be, or in case with my experience, oversaturated publicly with the sadness of loss, you know. So so either of those ends of the grief spectrum, I just wanted to provide some kind of like what I came to through this project is like that's really what I want it to do, is to provide some kind of solace and a place for people to come to my live shows and talk about it. Something that we're just afraid to talk about, the taboo of death, and also really the celebration of life, because I think when we are more connected to the impermanence of all things, there's more celebration in the moment. There's less like, oh, today's boring, I can't wait for tomorrow. You know, there might not be tomorrow. If you think more like that, then you're experiencing every day as a magical kind of possibility of what could happen, and you know. So I really, that's what's been to me, that's a responsibility that I hold very dear, and hope that I have the opportunity to, I don't know, transmute some of that.
And when you perform these songs live and you see that in the people's faces, and I'm sure people have said to you, friends and family and guests at the shows and through your music and online, what does that mean to you, knowing that you are touching people in that way.
That's definitely the most meaningful part of it. I love to perform. I love to perform for crowds, and what I love most about it is that there's this energy in a room, and as an artist, you're kind of either corralling it or ignoring it. You're either like part of it with the crowd, and I heard something recently, actually my brother shared it with me, that someone shared with him, that the audience is the artist, and that they're the ones who are really crafting the creative moment, as the watcher and listener. And I've been thinking about that a lot, because that's what it feels like. That's what I like about performing, is that I don't know what's going to happen. It is all about impermanence. I think that I'm going to play the same 4 shows in a row, and it's never that way. It's what's happening out there that imparts a totally different experience on stage. And so that symbiosis is what I'm really interested in about performing, and what I really love about the opportunity to do that with this project.
Yeah, yeah. Have you had those conversations with your family forever, for decades, as creative people, when you guys first started getting into it, and the trajectory that careers have taken? Is it something you've always enjoyed, talking about performance and acting? You share all that together?
Yeah, we share all that. I don't know that we talk shop, as it were, about those things all the time. But we did all, and we do all. We grew up with like this sense of responsibility that whatever our art is, that it hopefully could be a cause of benefiting others. Other beings, whether they're animals or people. So that's always been really important. My brother picked up a guitar when he was 3 and just didn't ever put it down. He was kind of obsessed with playing guitar. And I sang when I was 3 and he was 5, just by sitting next to him, opened my mouth. My parents were like, "Oh my goodness, she can sing!" Wow. And so I just kept singing. He kept playing, and it was like over the course of being a kid, and we were passionate about it. Like, we were always performing, in a sense. And so they started entering us in like local talent shows in Florida. It was like totally just like, oh, they seem to want to do this. And the rest is kind of history. So then we went to California, and it just kind of happened like very, it was meant, it feels very like, I don't want to say that. I mean, in the sense that I heard something else recently that I actually really agreed with, which was about everything happens for a reason, that's just not true. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, scientifically speaking. Like, so that's not what I mean by, it was meant to be. It just, there is something inherently in me that knows that I came here to do something. And so whatever path my life has taken, I see every version of that as helping that, if I stay focused, like, oh wait, I'm here for a reason. That's not just about me, it's something bigger. You know what I mean? So I try not to get too attached to, for all I know, I may end up spending my 50s and 60s as a librarian. Like, that's okay too. That might be my calling. But every path that I've taken is leading to whatever that eventuality is. And, and also I could die tomorrow. So
you could. Well, we all could.
So I'm enjoying the moment.
There you go. But you're creative every day. Is there something you need some kind of outlet almost every day of your life? Even if
I think we all do, don't you?
Yeah,
I mean, like I always kind of think I like to especially champion people who are quote unquote not creative as being creative, because just living is an act of creation, and being in life, every moment we're creating something, whether it's like a bummer for someone, whether we're creating a bad time for other people, or we are creative. So yes, every day I'm creating. I'm creative in some aspect. Especially now with the record coming out and been playing live shows. So I've actually, in terms of music and podcasting, like these are areas that I'm actively creative in. But
Talk about Michael Stipe and your friendship for years, and then the song together, and just kind of the trajectory. We've only seen it in pieces. Of someone on the outside, I know you worked with them years ago on some cool r.e.m. stuff. I remember that. Just kind of that pathway.
Yeah. Well, Michael and I have been friends, like you said, for a really long time, and one of my favorite vocalists, male vocalists that I would say. Just loved his voice, always have. And Yeah, honestly, I asked him kind of just like, hey, I think I'm gonna do, can you, and he was like, probably not right now, was his first response. And he's like, send me the song though. And so I really was like, and it was so hard to ask because I was like, I don't even want to ask him.
Right.
It's like so close when someone's close to you, it's
Yeah.
even weirder. I ask other people all the time for things, but like this was hard. And so I was like, I totally get it. He was like, I'm kind of shy. I'm not feeling like doing much these days. And so I sent him the song, and he wrote back and was like, yes, I would like to do it. So that was really like double awesome.
Yeah,
because he resonated with the song, and then on top of it, he agreed to sing it. So that was really easy. And just the process of working with him is always a delight. He basically was like, you know, we should do a video with a microphone in black and white. Come to New York and you know, we did it with I think for like the cost of me traveling there.
Yeah.
And like renting a studio for one day, and so it came together so organic. Like he's kind of part of that river energy is what I call it. You know, that's just kind of been snowballing. And so he was a dear friend of River's. So I've basically made an effort to involve as many of River's friends in this project, you know, whether it's directing a video or performing. And so, yeah. Yeah,
so great.
Launch Left has been around in my mind and on a paper since 2010.
Yeah.
It's when I first started penning what it was, and you know it as a podcast. Prior to being a podcast, I've done big live concert performances, but ultimately the concept is famed creatives launch the next wave of music rebels. So it's the idea of getting well-known artists that we respect to do the choosing for us, because there's so much music out. And it's artists across mediums that are doing the choosing. So it's not only musicians, but directors and fine artists. And really it came from just me asking myself, like, how would I best want to find new music? Like, what would be such a nice thing if someone skimmed it for me? You know, like picked their maybe so. Wow, I do know a lot of people that might do that. Wait, that should be a service for all of us. Like that should be available for everyone. And that was like the core, like, you know, I would say the idea. But the heart space behind it is really is artists helping artists. But even more than that, it's a place for marginalized artists and artists that choose a more left of center approach to their creative to feel solidarity and have a place for them, because I think often pop is supported more in a broad, and the money is going into certain kinds of music only, really, or you have to be one of 5 in the indie world, otherwise you're not going to rise. So basically, it's a platform to try and help emerging artists that are of the left of center leaning, kind of poke their music, poke their head above the noise and say, like, I'm here too. And it's done through the kindness of other artists who've already had the opportunity to shine, and so they're giving some of their light to these emerging artists. I mean, eventually the dream is to have it not just be music too. I want to grow it into something where it's for all art forms, and really it came from my upbringing. When I thought about it, I really did some soul searching, like why am I so insistent about being so particular about who's on the show and who's launched, and it means a lot and I was like, because that was, we were raised kind of like to do what our creative asked us to do, not to do what everyone else said we should do. And so we had that. I had that support. I had a family that supported the ways that I chose to be creative. And I've met and know and have heard of a lot of stories where that's not the case. So I kind of wanted to create a home for artists, especially marginalized artists, and those that are on the fringe and those that are considered, not viable. Like, as long as the art is really good, that's my only prerequisite. And so that's why it's curated. Right.
But that must be the most satisfying feeling to be able to do that. I hear the enthusiasm.
Yeah, I get super excited about it.
But that's awesome that you can do that.
And my sister Summer is the co-host, so then it's like really cool because it's so close to home, and our dynamic is fun because it's like sisters being sisters. and we're meeting these total strangers sometimes, and they're just shocked at our banter, sort of like, you know, it seems aggressive, but it's like how we talk, you know, like we're kind of funny.
I love the enthusiasm,
yeah.
the energy to it is great. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been really great.
It seems like the conversation doesn't end when the thing ends, like it would just keep going. You know?
Yeah.
Talk about, I saw your enthusiasm for Joaquin at the premiere of Joker.
Yeah.
Just how excited you were that night, how happy you are for the success of this thing.
So happy for him, and I think the film is you know, so powerful and spoke so much. Honestly, you'll hear on Launch Left, we interviewed him, and it's coming up.
Cool.
So you'll get a real inside, you know, sibling discussion about it. But I was beaming that night for him, and just blown away by, obviously, by his performance, and also just what the film, to me, was saying, and what we talked a lot about when we did discuss after seeing it was just how it's everyone takes away their own perspective, like we all have our own lens, and that movie left so much room for people to think about what were they trying to say, or what, you know, and maybe none of it was true, but what, you know, my takeaway, I'm really, like, I was really moved, like, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since then, and it's been, I think, 3 weeks, and it comes up, you know, throughout the day sometimes where I'm like, oh wow, maybe that was actually pointing to this, and you know, and that's great. To me, great art is thought-provoking, and it doesn't spell anything out for you, and you're meant to bring what you have to, like, the audience is the artist, right? That idea, and so yeah, I was really happy to be there that night and to experience it with my whole family. My whole family came in for it.
Yeah,
so
and his performance in particular is so amazing. How does that affect you, watching him transform himself and do that amazing? Where you've seen him, you know how special he is, but to see him do that must be. I'm
never used to it, because it's completely, every time he does a film to me, it's a completely different person, yet that's my, you know, so it's always a little bit hard to get used to, and he's just somebody, you know, he's definitely someone that I really admire artistically, and always look to sort of as a barometer of, you know, commitment to your craft.
Thank you for watching. If you want more extra, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll never miss a video.